stupid memes. Let's go ahead and continue this day, because it seems like we could potentially be looking at a long day here, as this is our bracket so far. But we had long series, the 3-2 of Silky, the 3-1 of Puck, and now I believe, Nate, it is time for Scarlett versus Zeal.
We are loaded into the first map in our third best of 5 of the day, third quarterfinal. In the bottom position, we have the blue Zerg player, big fan favorite in North America. She is Scarlett.
Now, once again, if you guys just joined us, Scarlett is currently in China. She's in a gaming house, and she's just spending some time there, maybe getting some practice with the Chinese players, maybe just having a good time. I don't know all the details, but I do know that she's playing this series from China.
That's potential for latency is pretty big, something to consider. In the top left, we have the red Protoss player. Her opponent, he is Zeal.
Who said that apparently he was in the club last night, Nate?
Nice.
Yeah.
He just takes after his favorite Protoss hero, Roddy, you know?
I've had a couple of nice encounters with Zeal in the ladder, especially in the old days when we used to live together in good old Rensho Cucamonga. I actually remember his name from the ladder. He disappeared for a while, but he's back, and he played great in the round of 16. It's awesome to see. I wouldn't necessarily call him a new face, but definitely a returning face, making it deep in these North American tournaments.
Yes, and Zeal asking the important questions. It's like, are you still in Korea? Scarlett's like, no, China. Just a little casual conversation to start things off. Nothing wrong with that.
Penalty points, Nate. You're not allowed to say anything besides good luck, have fun.
Got that 340 ping.
Well, it's a good thing that Scarlett is playing Zerg, though. That helps.
Yeah. Not,
In this matchup, I mean, we can talk a little bit about this, guys, and this is obviously not to stir up any wine whatsoever, but I think having a very high ping in a ZVZ, for instance, that's just dramatic.
Trying to micro-link Bane.
That's impossible, right? There's almost nothing you can do. Even if you're as good as Scarlett, that will just become very tough. Now, Zerg versus Protoss, is it nice to have a ping of 340? No.
No.
Of course not, guys. Absolutely not. But this is one of those matchups where it often does come down a little bit to more strategic choices, right? Like, you make sure you have your spore crawlers in time, you spread your creep. It comes down a lot to the mechanics. Not that much into microing units, because engagements, often you just shove those Zerg units in and you hope for the best. Oh, this is not looking good, actually, because we have a very early Roach Warren for Scarlett, and we have the Twilight opening for Zeal. And I say it's not looking good, because if Zeal is thinking... Oh my god, it just started to look worse, Nate. If Zeal's thinking about opening over the Resonating Glaives, that's very bad against Roaches. Defending an early Roach rush, whether it has Burrow or not, is a big problem.
Yeah, but going for Burrow with this gives Scarlett a bit more longevity, and if she can get past that wall, makes things really difficult.
Yeah, but even if she doesn't get past the wall, Nate, how is Zeal supposed to take care of these Roaches? He has no DPS. There is no Mothership Core these days. So, yes, the Stalker is going to help a lot more than the next Adept. Maybe a Dark Shrine, but this is going to hit before the Dark Shrine is even out. And this is a very tough build to go up against if you have a Twilight opening.
Huh. Okay, well, let's see what Zeal does. He's not moving anything across the map to scout. He has the Stalker here to poke back against the Overlord, but he is going to go into a robotics facility early after this Twilight.
That's obviously good news, but he still needs batteries and he needs to buy time. He's obviously expecting an all-in here because he knows Scarlett has incredibly high ping, so what if she just goes for like a Link Flood or something along those lines? Let's play it safe. This is the first time Zeal is going to pick up on all these Roaches, and this is going to become very difficult to hold.
And here they come up. There's the Lings with them too. Burrow is done, so any of these Roaches that get put into low hit points can just burrow and survive. More pylons coming in to help support. I don't know if that pylon that she's at. No. Wow, yeah, just dead. Amazing.
Yeah, some people may say like, wow, that seemed way too early. Why would you ever leave that early? Just try. There's always that guy who's like, come on, just try. But Zeal is not a bad Protoss player. He obviously knows what is possible and what is not possible.
He was expecting something else, it seemed.
He was expecting anything but this. Like, his build is fine literally against almost everything other than a Roach Burrow Rush. If you open up with a Twilight, it's only one gateway, so you barely have any production. He was going to lose that gateway as well because it was only powered by that pylon.
Yep.
What do? You're going to fight with probes, you're going to lose a whole bunch of probes. Of course, you could say, couldn't he just run circles and wait for the Immortal? Yes, but he would still lose an insane amount of workers. His Warp Gate wouldn't finish up. He's just like, this was worst case scenario. For a Twilight opening, that is worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, he made the right... You kind of like think about it, it's like, well, Scarlett probably playing aggressive with that much ping. Like, yeah, that's a fair assumption. He did probe scout. You see that the hatch isn't like super fast or anything like that. But
it was a lazy probe scout, right? Because it was like, hatch. normal. Okay, let's go home.
I'm out. Peace.
Yeah. And that's something that I do as well. And I think a lot of us Protoss players do that. Just like, let's scout. Is it 12 pool? No, it's not 12 pool or no 14 pool. Cool. Well, let's go home and play a normal game. But, you know, if you want to be really critical, you have to keep that probe around until at least 220, 230 into the game and then see. It's like, are they going up to 3 bases at the regular timing? Is there gas being mined? Can I maybe suicide the probe into the main base and get that important scout off?
Yeah, that's frustrating way to lose the first map. Next map will be Acid Plant as we get back into this next game. But good start for Scarlett, I think. Still comes in as a favorite. But I think that there's big potential for Zeal here. Zeal had some funky fresh builds in the group stage. And I think that if he's able to get an opportunity where he can move the game into a phase where he can do one of those timings, use maybe a little bit of that latency advantage, do something that's tricky to deal with, like a drop, multi-prong, then I think there's potential. I
think the one potential is if you really want to hurt Scarlett with her ping disadvantage, it's sort of a double prism type of build, right? Because microing units, because then Zerg does need to save units, right? You can't just have your roaches tanking zealot shots. So if you have a prism in the main with, let's say, 2 Archons, and then you have another prism that has 6 zealots somewhere, that's where I think it becomes truly hard as a Zerg to deal with that kind of a ping. So that's kind of what my game plan would be. If I was Zeal, be safe early on, and then go for some good old multi-prong aggression.
All right. Well, we've got Scarlett joining the lobby for our next map as we move forward here. Zeal, what do you think that was what he wanted to do with the Twilight Council opening, was go into Resonating Glaives?
That's what I thought at first, but then since he dropped an early Robo, I assumed it was maybe just an Archon opening, an Archon Drak opening, right? Because he then has the Twilight Council, he can go for the Dark Shrine, he can go for a Prism. Yeah. So it seemed a little bit more catering towards an Archon Drop opening, but it's still bad. If you open Twilight, you don't have a Mothership Core these days, he simply has 0 DPS against those roaches. Like, nothing touches those roaches.
What's ideal then if you
scout it and you open up 1 gate and then a Robo, free win. Chrono Boost out, you have a battery, you have an Immortal, and the Immortal standing there, 50 damage a shot. Good luck, have fun, Scarlett. Protoss is up 12 workers. Stargate is not the end of the world, obviously, because Oracles can tag roaches, so then at least you see them, and then you can go Oracle Void Ray, or ideally, if you scout it very early, I would say maybe Void Ray first and send it out a little bit so you can start damaging those roaches before they arrive.
They're on the way. Okay, well, it seems like Scarlett's having a little bit of connectivity issues getting into the lobby for our next game, so we're just waiting on her to be able to join, and we'll get into the next map. So
other decent scenarios would maybe be like you scouted early, you can just get 2 or 3 gates, as long as you have batteries, because these roaches, yes, they have burrow, but they don't have tunneling claws, right? So it's not like they're just gonna appear in your main base. If you can get like a Stalker count up, even if it's just 2, 3 Stalkers, then you can push out consistent damage. If you're standing there under a battery, then suddenly the roaches deal no damage. So a lot of things are decent. Robo would be the best, because then you get an Immortal Observer and it's a free win with a battery. But Twilight is the absolute worst case scenario.
Okay, well, I don't have any further updates here, so
we're having some minor difficulties as Scarlett is playing these games once again, guys, from China. So she's gonna have to relog in and out of the server every now and then. And as soon as she's able to join the game, we will continue the series.
Yeah. So yeah. I guess just go to a break. I don't have too much else to go into. So we only have like 3 seconds of gameplay from this match so far.
Let's take a look if it's gonna work out this time.
I was trying to invite her one more time. If it doesn't work, we're just gonna give her a few minutes to reset everything. But yeah, this is not a lot of analysis. Only much we could break down. It was just like a simple rush. Yeah,
we tried so far.
Like if it was a 20-minute game, there's a lot to go into. But no, she can't join again. Yeah, that's tough, playing from across the world. Okay, wow, she joined. All right, yeah. All right. She has to play through a VPN to get to connect to outside China servers. So we are ready to go, it looks like, so we can get into game number 2.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about Acid Plant, of course, guys. Now, in PvZ, it's often hard to truly break down matchups, right? As long as the map is relatively standard, there isn't that much I can say about it. Of course, it's a map with a lot of ramps, so eventually having batteries, stasis wards, couple sentries to prevent dying from a mass roach build helps out. Most likely, I'm expecting Zeal to play this safe. Maybe open up with the Stargate and then go into that double prism, like I said. I don't think Zeal needs to get overly fancy here. I think if he can get some solid multi-prong aggression here of, let's say, 44, 48 probes, I would kind of like his chances.
All right, let's see if he can get to that phase or if we're going to have another quick rush out of our blue Zerg player in the southeast. She is Scarlett.
Gave us a very quick game number 1. Obviously, was very happy to spot that Twilight console as well. Over here on the left top side of good old asset plant, we're looking at the main base of our newcomer but familiar face. It is Zeal. He's got a badass name, by the way.
Yeah, Valentine Montfort. I can't even read the rest of that. The font gets squished on our little preview monitor. That's a long name.
You know what they say, Nate.
What do they say, Ronnie?
I'm not sure where I was going with that.
It's a quick hatchery this time around. No fast pool or gas out of Scarlett. So Zeal should be happy to see that he's not going to be getting rushed at some crazy fast pace.
Yep, but it's probably important to keep that probe around a little bit longer or send it back, but then make sure you go for a very safe build, which is indeed that Stargate, or if you want to be really safe, a Robo. But if you guys wonder, why did the one-gate Robos kind of fall out of fashion? Why don't we see it that much? It's because it's one of those builds where you can't really apply any pressure on the Zerg, right? The only thing you can do is a Warp Prism and then have 2 Adepts in it or something, but as long as you don't have Charge or Oracles, it's very unlikely you're going to kill a lot of workers, and then Protoss often just falls a tiny bit too far behind if the Zerg plays very economic. So that's why you don't really see one-gate Robos very often.
Yeah, the potential to get damage done with the Stargate is great. And also, as you mentioned, the Stargate gives you a lot of options for defending early attacks. We've seen people hold off big Ling Floods using Oracles. Obviously, Phoenix have a great way of dealing with the Overlords that are out on the map, and then Void Rays to help shut down Roaches. And it also allows you, if you ever need to get a Fleet Beacon and extra Stargates later on in the game as well.
Yeah, there is multiple reasons why Stargates are so good. It's also about denying the vision, right? Like you said, of those Overlords, a Robo doesn't really do that for you. It's like, yeah, you can look at it, you can spot it with an Observer and a Prism, but there's no... Wow, he goes Twilight again, damn. All right, but most likely it is to open up with a Dark Shrine and then go for a Robotics Facility, but a little bit risky. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and Scarlett's finishing up the Queens at both of her bases, going into that. Okay, did she just cancel Ling speed? Okay. Yeah, she cancels Zergling speed, starts Overlord speed, and a 3rd base.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, your guess is as good as mine, Nate. I mean,
I don't know, Kev.
Obviously, you could say that there is some builds where you can run to the other side of the map and put a couple Queens in an Overlord and transport them that way. But, I mean, without Ling speed, like, obviously it's not going to be slow Zerglings. There's no Roach Warren yet either. I don't know. I'm very confused. Maybe it's just to scout and then go up to Hydras very quickly. We'll keep a close eye on it, but Scarlett is making some interesting decisions here.
Yes, very interesting. There's the Dark Shrine that you were talking about, following up the Robotics Facility for that likely Archon drop, and Zeal kind of moved that Adept Shade out, was looking for anything, but there is nothing to be seen, so it pulls back, and Scarlett spreading the Overlords out. It's like, if you're not going to open Stargate, well, I will take that map vision, thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's actually a bad position to be in when you go up against Scarlett, because he's already so good in having map vision in this matchup. This Overlord spots the Robotics Facility, spots the Dark Shrine, sees the additional gates as well, so Scarlett is like, alright, it's just going to be Queens and Roaches then for now. Obviously get a couple of Roaches to deal with the Archons, because he doesn't have Zergling speed, and slow links against Archons is one of the saddest things there is.
Yeah, the Roach Warren coming in, we have the Lair. So do you see it then being that Scarlett maybe gets a few spores, use the Roaches to push back the Archons, and then does she move into a big army composition for mid-game?
Yeah, maybe just throw down the Hydra then, right? And maybe go for a good old 3-base timing and maybe have a 4th hatch behind it of Roaches and Hydras. But for now, the Roach one is just to be safe. Like, you need a Roach one, otherwise if Zeal goes up to 8 gates and he wipes in a whole bunch of Zealots with charge and a couple Archons, I mean, if you don't have Zergling speed, how are you ever going to deal with that? There is simply no way.
Point.
Man, this is a risky way that Scarlett... Oh my goodness. Zeal is just going to go for it with DTs. Where is that Overseer that we... Okay, it's morphing in the right place. But this is still a crazy play by Scarlett. To do this without Spore Crawlers, if Zeal would have sent 2 Dark Templars into the natural as well, and then one of them would run into the main base, this would have been really bad because Scarlett has 0 Spore Crawlers, Nate.
And look at this, Zeal letting the DTs fight, just trying to pull them back as they take damage, hoping to at least kill maybe a few of those Roaches. Going to pull back. The Warp Prism didn't take too much real damage, so the shields will regenerate as he retreats, and warps them into Archons.
This is actually kind of annoying for Zeal. Because of this very fast lair, Scarlett is able to drop... I don't understand why Zeal doesn't have charge, Nate. I feel like this is a blunder. Why does he not have charge? Like, if he had charge, I would actually like this game for him, because that's when he's going to be able to warp in all those zealots. But he has no upgrade of his Twilight console.
Yeah, this is weird. He's just building Archons.
Yeah, I mean, Archons are great, guys, don't get me wrong, but against a whole bunch of roaches, you're going to have a pretty tough time. Stalker, meanwhile, sleeping on the job as well.
Just do it!
I think he forgot charge. He must have, right?
That's a pretty bad thing to forget in this situation. Oh boy. Roach speed on the way, Spire on the way.
I like the Spire, actually.
The double Archon drop. He's like, you know what? Yeah, let me eat that splash.
So Scarlett is up, only 6 workers, so this means he has plenty of workers. The Archons do spot the Spire, so that's already nice. At least I assume that he clicked on it there, and Zeal's going to be aware of it. This is kind of funny. I mean, how often do you see this? Just 4 Archons in the Zerg's main?
Drop. Yeah, it's a little out there.
It doesn't do much, though. I mean, all memes aside. Zeal is now down 17 work, or he was down 17 work.
He's only just starting his third base.
Yeah, 6 minutes and 30 seconds into the game.
Now he's got charge and +1.
Yeah, the only time you can ever get away with a 6-minute, 30-second Nexus is when you've killed, let's say, 15 or 20 drones. But that has not been the case at all. 4 workers have gone down so far. Don't stack them up.
Oh, if he gets a juicy splash shot, maybe, but nope, not able to find purchase there. Has to pick up the Archons and evacuate once more.
He's not doing much against this Spire, by the way, that once again, he has absolutely seen, but did he process the fact that this is a Spire? It's like he's building Immortals, and now he's getting charge, which I feel like it's too late for charge, unless you just still want to use it against roaches, which is okay. Did Scarlett? No, she let it finish, okay.
And mutas are coming out. Don't tell me he's just going to get blindsided. Okay, 4 more DTs are being added.
So he's going to defend mutas with Archons and War Prisms. It's not impossible, but you're playing a dangerous game.
I mean, 4 Archons, if he's able to get the shots off, sure, they'll kill the mutas easy peasy, but
yeah, what if
will he get those shots off?
This is where it gets awkward, right? If the mutas are over here, they bounce to the left, they bounce to the right, and do you pick up your Archons? And what happens if Z clicks on one of those prisms and Zeal ends up losing a prism? Maybe Zeal's just going to attack, but he has nothing at home against the mutas. He's just going to base trade.
This attack is bonkers. There's just so many Archons moving out. He's got 6 Archons, 2 Immortals, and 12 Zealots.
I mean, the straight-up fight is obviously going to be good, right? I mean, roaches are good, but this seems like a pretty good anti-roach army with charge, +1. All these Archons, the mutas, are in the main base of Zeal. So yes, Zeal is going to lose probes, but he doesn't care. He just wants to win the game.
Yep, going for the big attack right now. The Archons move in. Corrosive Vials are going to get dropped. Not hitting any of the high-value units. There's the first few force fields coming out here. If the Archons get picked off, then the Mutalisks can come back and try to help deal with this. The War Prisms have not added too much more to this yet.
Oh, Prism. Prism is so risky to put it there. Close to Queens, close to Corrosive Bow as well. But I guess, yeah, there's 2 Prisms. But the Archons are starting to melt a little bit.
And that means these Mutalisks could try to turn around at some point and just help clean this up.
They're doing fine, Nate. They're doing fine.
They're also having a great time over on the other side of the map. That is a good point. The Archons have no more shields. So Scarlett, another Archon, was added back home to deal with this, but Zeal really has to keep those Archons alive, really has to let them try to get back some shields. It's the only thing he can use to prevent Mutalisks from shutting down this attack.
I agree with you. Bring the mutas home now, Scarlett. I think that's what he's doing. We can take a look at that mini-map. The mutas are coming home. You said this. The Archons have almost no HP. The mutas can just kill these Archons, and then there is almost no anti-air in this army. Both players have lost a lot, but I think if Scarlett can just get on top of this Prism, get on top of those Archons, then she can win the game.
Yep, and here we have it. The Archons, we see them both very low on shields. There's not a lot of mutas, but
you gotta go now.
Without a reinforcement warp and something like Stalkers to help, this is gonna be so difficult to make work. The first Archon is knocked down. The second one is so low. Picked up, dropped. Guardian Shield picked up and dropped again.
Oh my goodness.
And it gets the last shot off, killing the rest of the Mutalisks. That one Archon from Zeal does the trick. Oh my god, and the Overseer's dead. He's on top of the lair. GG, Zeal takes map number 2 against Scarlett.
What was that, Nate? I really felt if the mutas would have came home a tiny bit earlier. Like, I like that the mutas were in the main. They were doing a tremendous job. In the natural, they were doing some really good work as well. Zeal lost almost all of his probes. I think it's roughly 12 or 15 workers left, so that really wasn't that much. But then I think Scarlett stayed at this third base of Zeal a little bit too long. There wasn't anything there anyway. Then she brought it home. But the Archons, they were regenerating HP. And this one Archon, even if it only had 100 HP, Zeal did a really good job in picking picking it up, preventing that Archon from tanking road shots, and then that Guardian Shield. I mean, Mudas without an upgrade shooting at an Archon that's protected by Guardian Shield. It's a sad sight.
And that was just at the last possible moment, too. The Archon did not have time to regenerate shields. And that final volley, it was 3 red health Mutas, and that Archon shot just killed all 3 at the exact same time. So sick.
Yeah, I mean, Scarlett was going between the Archon and the Prism. First, obviously, tried to get the Archon, and it's like, that's too risky. Maybe I should settle for the Prism. But that's when that Archon got multiple of those hits off. And even the Prism, once again, Guardian Shield just makes it tough. Midas, especially in small numbers, then start dealing very sad amount of damage.
Yeah, that Guardian Shield, MVP of that map. As we move forward to Catalyst for game number 3. I knew Zeal could take a game here. I felt it, Roddy. I felt it.
I mean, I do like the double Prism. It was a little bit weird that he relied on only Archons for such a long time. While he had money in the bank, he could have squeezed out a much faster charge. To then just run to the other side of the map after spawning the Spire. You know, I don't hate it. In the end, it works. So who are we, right, to say anything about it? But I do feel you're playing a pretty dangerous game at that point. I mean, it worked out. If you would have had a couple cannons at home, then I would have been like, all right, you know, literally a cannon and a battery per mineral line. Then you can always wipe in a couple of defensive stalkers. Then you're totally fine. But Zeal played a dangerous game there. He had nothing at home against the Mudas, but still managed to get the W.
All right, we're loaded in to game number 3 as we continue forward on Catalyst. In the bottom right position, spawning as the blue Zerg player, we have team experts Scarlett.
I am Pyeongchang champion.
That was how many matches has she won against Stefano? Right.
Yeah. What's up, production crew? Step
Where's
up
our
the game.
stat? Where's our stat?
Over here on the left top side, we're looking at the main base of a man that probably didn't beat Stefano all that often. It is Zeal. He did beat No Regret, though.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I think he played him again in the group too. Those were interesting times. Zeal comes out as one of those players where you're like, this is one of those NA bred. You're gonna see some of those unorthodox strategies that the American players love to use, and he has managed to pick up that last W off of the back of one. So let's see if he's got something even dirtier in mind here.
I think Scarlett might be the one that has something tricky up her sleeves here. I feel like this gas, you could say like that's a normal gas, but I still feel it's a tiny bit on the early side. And Catalyst is one of those maps, Nate, where even queens can walk off creep to the other side of the map. I have the feeling that there is a good chance that Scarlett wants to get pretty aggressive here. What kind of aggression, I'm not exactly sure about, but we'll see. I've got a suspicion.
All right.
It's going to be something.
Let's see what she breaks out here in game number 3. The Nexus is on the way for Zeal, and we'll be seeing that tech choice after the Cyber Core comes in. Man, this bracket side, so interesting, Roddy. The way that this thing is shaped up. Neeb losing in the first match of the day really just twisted my thought on how everything was going to go. Because in my mind, I was like, well, you know, Masa might just cheese out True, and then he cheesed out Scarlett last time. So could we get a repeat Masa Neeb? Could it happen? And everything had to be thrown out the window. There's the Adept, though, from Zeal as the Cyber Core is done. Let's see what he wants. Is it going to be that
I think on this map, you almost have to go Stargate.
Okay, why?
Because this map is even a lot shorter than Acid Plant, and even a little bit shorter than Dreamcatcher as well. That if you go Twilight here and Scarlett does decide to go crazy aggressive in the beginning, you're going to have such a tough time. There's also no ramp, of course, leading into the natural. Now, Zeal has been scouting, and he knows that so far everything looks normal on the side of Scarlett. The only thing that he didn't know for sure is if Scarlett actually went up to 3 hatcheries or not. Now we do know that it's all standard and safe, and Scarlett stopped mining gas for quite some time as well. So far nothing weird is happening. He's even going back to droning.
Okay. Sees the 3rd hatchery there with the probe.
In PvZ, whenever Protoss, obviously since we lost the Mothership Core, it just becomes tough to hold some of those early game rushes, and the smaller the map becomes, the more you have to be worried about it. And those builds are absolutely not unbeatable. Some would even say it's very easy to hold as long as you scout and you have a Stargate. But the moment you stop going without the Stargate and you don't have that Mothership Core to fall back on, then there are some scenarios where you just have no DPS, and even something like a Link Flood can actually be the end of you.
All right, the Overlord sees that this Phoenix, thank you for the breakdown, Roddy. I like hearing that Protoss knowledge. A small map, definitely something you got to worry about because that Roach attack devastated before. But the Phoenix will clean up the Overlord. It's an Oracle follow-up. Here are Scarlett's Lings to just check that wall again. With 2 Adepts, not going to be able to do a whole lot there. And a robotics facility behind it. Not going for the Twilight before the Robo. So does he start the Twilight as soon as he possibly can, or are we just not going to have an Archon drop this game?
No, I absolutely expect a Twilight here, unless I mean Zeal's just going to play a Turtle game and get Immortal Colossus. Bring us back to Wings of Liberty, but I have a hard time believing that is going to be the case. I actually kind of like that Zeal is going for Oracles, because if we think back for a split second about Acid Plant, Scarlett played an incredibly greedy style of Zerg when it came to Spore Crawlers. He had none. If Zeal would have just sent Dark Templars into every single base early on, as he's going to lift one of these Queens, the Spore Crawler is a little bit late, and this is already a solid opening. Getting 3 drone kills like that, not bad at all for our Protoss.
All right, I like it. Yeah, good point, bringing up the late Spore Crawler and then the lack thereof in the last game for Scarlett. Warp Prism is on the way with the Forge and the Twilight Council. It doesn't line up as quickly because the Twilight was a little bit later, so that Temple Archives won't be ready for the Warp Prism, but maybe by the time he gets it into a position across the map, he'll be ready to get that going.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare this Nexus as well to the one in the previous
Much
game, right?
faster.
That's a solid 90 seconds fast, and that makes a big difference. Scarlett just made 8 Lings, and I wonder about it. A lot of Overlords as well, so are we looking at a massive Ling Roach attack? Oh, I see, just worried about why Prism Aggression, but why the Lings here? Why not just the Roaches?
And he's just going to take those 2 Adepts across the map, too, not even getting a Dark Shrine or Templar Archives. Going for Blink.
Wow.
+1 in Immortals.
Zeal, old school. Straight into the Blink.
Yeah, that's not something we've seen for a while. That was me. He's going for the puck flashback, really.
Oh, I do like this, actually. This is always nice harass with the War Prism and the 2 Adepts, like you said. Because then you can just get a couple drones for free, and then you shade towards the Prism, and then if the Roaches come, you can always pick up your Adepts. This is a very nice move, and something that you really have to respect as the opponent. Because if you ignore 2 Adepts for 10 seconds, you lose 10 drones, just as that.
Yeah, the Adepts are absolutely devastating and hard to deal with in that scenario. As that Blink is continuing on, just adding gateways, building the Immortals, sentries.
You know what I'd love to see from Zeal? If he figures this is all happening and he's getting Blink, then in my opinion, get a Robo Bay and get a second Robo. Why not?
Just go all out. You think Colossus then?
Yeah. I mean, even Disruptors are good if you have Blink, obviously, right? But I think the second Robo is going to be very, very useful here. I don't have the idea. Once again, Scarlett is playing from China, and this is important to mention. It's unlikely that this is going to be a Broodlord game or something, right? So why not believe in the power of that second Robo that is good against almost anything that's not Broodlords?
Fair enough. 4 more gateways being added. Gas is not taken on that 3rd just yet. Stasis Sword being put down to help cover.
There's my Robo Bay. Now give me a second Robo, Zeal. I know you've got Blink and you've got gateways, but a second Robo is what you need here.
Let's see it. Blink is just about done. +1 attack is finishing up. Second Forge.
Yeah, I mean, okay. The main reason why I like second Robo as well is because stuff like Observers becomes very important if you go up against either multi-prong attacks or Lurkers. And if you're building Observers, you're not building Immortals, right? Or Colossus or Disruptors. And then you still have that 1 Prism, but it's always nice to have more than 1 Prism. And in case you lose that Prism, once again, if you rebuild it, you're not building the units that you truly need. And that's why I'd love to see a second Robo.
Having the option to build all that extra stuff is really nice. Okay, so it is Colossus.
Now I really want a second Robo, Nick.
With range, yeah. Now I'm feeling you on the second Robo. These bad boys take forever to build, and the Lurkers, well, when that Lurker Den is done, there will be a lot of them very quickly, much faster than there would be multiple Colossi, for sure.
So the Oracle does get an important tag off on this army. You spot these Roaches, you spot these Hydras. Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like Sentries and I like Blink Stalkers. I don't really like Sentries, Blink Stalkers, and Colossus against Lurkers, though, Nate. And if these Lurkers can get in a good position, I don't know, do we have any Lurkers yet on the map? No, nope. It's just pure Roach Hydra, but the Lurker Den is done.
And here we're going to see, once again, this has been a recurring theme in ZVP today on this broadcast, is the drop play into the main, and then the big attack at the 3rd or the 4th base of the Protoss. The Oracle is going to be flying past these. Okay, there's the Overlords. The Stalkers are here. They're going to try to grab a few of these before they can unload. Gets 1, kills the second Overlord, but now there's a bunch of Hydralisks that these Stalkers have to fight against.
Yeah, but with a couple of Zealots, I think Zeal is going to be okay here. Having those Stalkers in position to snipe. Well, you need to micro your Stalkers a little bit, Zeal. as he ends up losing a couple of them. These Hydras don't even have range, by the way. How cute is that?
And the attack is now coming in on the third base as the Zealots move forward.
No!
And a huge volley
No!
from the Lurkers rips. Oh, that just killed damn near everything.
Yes! He's standing in range of like 7 Lurkers going forward with those spikes. Hold position. It's like, no!
Oh, he's dead, yeah, right. Well, how does he deal with this now?
Yeah, I mean,
he lost to too much right there.
if you don't have a second robo, I mean, how are you going to clean this up?
Yeah, he's
Perfect
I don't think he can-
sandwich engagement, maybe with Immortals and Zealots, but
There's so many roaches there to tank for those Lurkers if he ever tries to get on. Oh, the drop's still alive, by the way. So that's something else to think about.
Okay, Scarlett being a little bit sloppy there. A couple of roaches running away from those Lurkers, but I mean, these Hydras are actually taking out the Stalkers as well, and that means more probes are gonna go down here. Scarlett, this is all over the place. And these Lurkers with their fantastic hits in the beginning, can they win another fight, Nate?
The Stalkers are going to blink to the south side. Even with Guardian Shield, though, everything just gets ripped to pieces by these Lurkers.
Yeah.
The Colossus in the back dies alone. GG, Scarlett goes up 2-1.
Very impressive macro this game by Scarlett, right? It really felt like, okay, she lost a couple drones against that Oracle, the Adept show up, she lost a few more drones. Then she goes for one big attack and suddenly it just looks all over. I mean, we saw the beginning of that engagement, then we saw Protoss army on hold position against 7 Lurkers shooting in a direction.
Yeah.
And it felt like that was the end.
Yep. I mean, he was looking back at the main base, trying to micro those Stalkers, and then the Zealot warp in, so he can't add anything to that third base. And the drop, that Hydra shop, was actually never cleaned up. He was still warping in Zealots over there, trying to deal with that by the end of the game. So
Scarlett's supply was really crazy to look at because it felt like an even game, and you have Roaches and Hydras. And she started making those drops, by the way, before she even had both upgrades on the Hydra. She had Hydra speed, but no range. And not often do you see Zerg's players be aggressive with Hydra range, or without range. But she's like, well, I've got Hydras, I've got Dropper Lords, so let's just put them in the main. We'll see how it goes. And then suddenly Scarlett's supply just exploded to like almost maxed out.
Yep.
Roaches, Hydras, Lurkers. And you look at the Protoss army, it's like 135, 140. It's like, okay, that doesn't look that good.
nope, it's been a hell of a series so far as Zeal puts up as good of a fight as he can, but we're going to be going to a quick break. When we come back, the rest of Zeal versus Scarlett. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series America. We are currently halfway, or maybe perhaps just about to finish up, our series of Scarlett versus Zeal, where Scarlett leads 2-1 against the American Protoss player. Roddy, it's been an interesting matchup so far.
Yeah, not as explosive as the first two best of fives that we had of the day, where it really felt we had long games, we had tier 3 units, brute lords, carriers, we've seen it all pretty much. This game, or this series rather, it's been a little short, couple of rushes. Ooh, what did I just do? I did something terrible.
Did you break the game, Kevin?
Did
you press? What happened?
I tried to set my scoreboard, and now I've got a bar.
Oh, you made one of the other interface thingies appear. I actually don't know how to undo that. Try accidentally pressing the other one, because doing the observing is going to make this terrible on my end.
You can do it, Nate.
I'll try, Kev.
I have a lot of faith in your observing.
I'm a pretty awful observer. I don't hide it. In the bottom left, we have the red Protoss player trailing 1-2. Here on 16-bit, he's Zeal.
Well, mate, it's going to be all you. I have no idea what I did, but it's on.
Fear Dragon could fix it, but he's probably doing some number crunching right now.
All right, on the right top side of 16-bit, we're looking in the main base of our Canadian Zerg player. It is Scarlett. Taking that forward base, but of course that's quite standard on this map, because Zerg players like to get their creep out as quickly as possible.
Yep, and if you can hold that front, having the creep out is always nice. Keep that pocket base in the pocket for as long as possible. Probe will see it, and on its way in, we'll now take a look at the rest of what's going on in Scarlett's base. Sees that there is the gas, there's the spawning pool. Nothing super out of the ordinary. Meanwhile, back at home, Zeal will take his Nexus on the inside. Does not want to try to wall off that big one.
Alrighty, Nate. I have fixed everything.
Thank God.
I tried.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed the painful 90 seconds of me.
No, that was solid, Nate. I really didn't see too many mistakes now. I'm happy to take over.
Didn't miss any drops?
If you missed a drop, Nate, then I know nothing about this game. Because I'd be like, thought we took that out of the game. Didn't think that was so possible. There's not even any units to be put in drops yet, so how does that even work? We've got this probe working on this drone. So far everything is very standard, but I'm still expecting none of these games to be incredibly dragged out, right? Once again, we saw those Brood Lords and Carriers in the series before. When Scarlett is playing with a high ping, I don't expect games like that. I love the way she played on Catalyst. She made it look effortless, to be honest. You know, she just maxed out on Roach, Hydra, Lurker, a little bit of a drop in the main, bam.
Brutalized him, and it was very well done. We've seen this every PvZ so far today, that big drop play with the frontal assault that accompanies it, and it is so hard for the Protoss players to deal with it. Even having those Stalkers kind of waiting, getting one of the full Overlords before it came in was still too much once those Hydras were able to unload on the Stalkers.
Yeah, I felt this beginning of that drop defense was really good for Zeal, but obviously the fight on the right side of the map while he was dealing with the drop went disastrous. And if you play against Lurkers and you lose the first fight or the first engagement, and the Lurkers are suddenly in a very scary position towards one of your most important bases, well, then what do you do? And I actually don't think any Protoss player has an answer for it, because Lurkers are obviously very powerful units. It's totally fine for a Protoss player to deal with it, but you need to see it coming in advance. You need to be in position, and you need to have the right tools for it. If you're out of position and you don't really have the right buildings or units to deal with them, well, then it's often the beginning of the end.
Yeah, so we have that hatchery starting in the back now. Robotics facility, Dark Shrine. Kevin, I'll just ask you, Mr. Protoss player. We've seen some players like Mana prefer to go for the Templar Archives, Puck as well. What about the Dark Shrine, do you think? Is it just if the Protoss wants to be more aggressive?
No, I don't think it's necessarily...
to be cheeky with the first DTs before they morph, or...?
That is a possibility, but not even always the case, right? Every now and then they just morph the Dark Templars into Archons immediately. It's a little lighter on the gas, and it's also nice to have defensive DTs against certain builds early on. Even against the mid-game, it's sometimes nice to have some Dark Templars, but the way that Scarlett plays and with how greedy she defended these Dark Templars on Acid Plant, if I'm Zeal, I'm actually going a little crazy here, and I just send, you know, my Warp Prism into the main and split my Dark Templars into 3 different angles. One north, one east, one to the southeast. Why not? See what happens. If Scarlett doesn't have any Spore Crawlers, it's going to be impossible to deal with it.
But if she does, then he might have, he might be tossing the game away a little bit.
Yeah, but in the end, you should always be able to get some workers, but you know, he might just try and test the waters. And okay, if he did make Spore Crawlers, good enough. That is still some damage that I managed to achieve with my opening. And then you can still morph them into Archons, and you still have a similar scenario. So we can see Zeal. He's going to try his luck here, but this is where the only Spore Crawler of the game is. If 4 Dark Templars go on top of a Spore, but there's Overseer as well.
Overseer's there too, so focuses down a drone, tries to hack and slash the Queen. Good transfuse from Scarlett, saves it.
I mean, isn't it amazing how Scarlett has 1 Spore Crawler, and that's where all 4 Dark Templars go? What is it with good players? They seem to have a little bit of luck on this side as well, Nate.
Yeah. It's not fair, Roddy.
Okay, okay.
There's the other Prism.
Okay. No, there's an Overseer. Ooh, this is dangerous warp in.
That's a risk. Yeah, good cancel on that warp in. And brings the Prism back to the side. So we have that the double Prism action going on again. Third Nexus starts up for Zeal. And here we go. The double Archon drop again. The double-double, really, I guess you should call it.
You know, that's a milkshake. Or it's a burger at a famous joint.
Yeah,
Double-double.
I'm about to double up on these Archons, Roddy.
If you eat it, you won't be hungry for a double day, Nate.
Feels good, man.
I mean, this seems like enough roaches for now to deal with this. Obviously, this is still frustrating because Scarlett is not really able to mine. I'd love to see those Archons try to get a couple of good drone hits. Instead, it's just Archons fighting all these roaches. Somehow, these Archons still all live. They've tanked a lot of damage. 15 additional drones for Scarlett on the way. And that Spire Nade has still gone completely undetected.
Yep, we're going to see, is this going to be a repeat of Acid Plant then, Roddy? Are we going to get into weird territory?
It's harder to run to the other side of the map on this map though, right? With your Archons.
Big, yeah.
Ooh! Oh! -1 Archon. Felt like it could have been worse even there for Zeal. He simply didn't have that much HP anymore on those big blue boys.
And now that's going to be very rough as the Mutalisks are going to come out. And once again, we're going to have to ask ourselves that question of what will he do? Will he just bring everything out for another big push?
Like, the thing is, I can't even blame Zeal that much this game for not expecting Munas here. He hasn't seen it yet, but if I'm Zeal, I'll be like, yeah, everything is normal. I see a whole bunch of roaches. I see queens. There are Spore Crawlers. I wouldn't necessarily expect Munas here. Now, obviously, if you don't see anything else other than those roaches in the next minute and a half, then you could say, like, hey, Zeal should have been expecting Munas. The Observer somehow spots a Mutalisk on the right side of the map. Spots a lot of them.
That's a good catch now. So what will Zeal do? Knowing that his Prisms aren't the target, but
there's no pylon in this pocket expand. I don't like that.
So he can't actually defend it. And even though he's getting +1, there's no cannon plus battery. Recalls the Warp Prisms with the Archons in them.
It's still a little bit far away. Yeah, you're going to be forced to pull the probes there. But the Archons are going to be able to save a couple of these probes and keep them safe for now. As the Prisms show up. You know what would be cool against this? If you want to defend like this, Warp Prism speed.
Yeah.
This is still annoying though. Like, even if... Okay, the shield battery is going to make Zeal's life a little bit easier. That means that these Mutas can tank a few more shots. Don't shoot me the probes before they go down.
He's picked off 10 probes so far with these Mutalisks. Devastating damage on the part of Scarlett. And these, I mean, it's so hard to stop because the only way, like, what? You have to put a cannon and a battery and try to hold, but now the frontal assault is getting ready. Look at this. 6 Ravagers, a good number of roaches ready to rock and roll, and those Mutas are still... Scarlett's playing from China with sick ping, and these Mutas still doing everything they need to do this game.
And now it's time for that big frontal attack. The Archons are way out of position as they were chasing Mutalisk around. The force fields are pretty good though for Zeal, but Nate, this doesn't look like a lot of Protoss.
2-3 Immortals is just not enough to kill all of this, Roddy, and Scarlett pushes forward, still running around. There's the Biles hitting some of the probes in that expansion. Down to 22 workers lost. That Archon desperately trying to fend off these Mutalisks.
Zeal's still sort of in there, but it would
be up to 4 Immortals.
It would be so sweet to just get a couple of shield batteries and cannons here, right? Like, I know that it's sometimes hard to get those things up, but that would make his life so much easier as a Protoss.
This is such a rough position to be in. Those Vials are going to keep contesting and challenging and throwing those big shots towards the back. Shield battery trying to keep those probes alive. Archon is picked off.
It's starting to look pretty grim for our Protoss, who's down 50 army supplies and is ending up losing a couple of these Zealots here as well. He's got a few more Pylons finishing up. Now these Immortals are just running into these barriers, and the Ravaging count, Nate, is still so freaking high. Can the Zealots do enough? It seems like the answer is almost no. Now the Mutas show up as well.
The Mutas come in to finish things off, driving in the nail through Zeal's WCS hopes, as Scarlett pushes through and kills everything else that our American Protoss player has. she should be moving forward here in the bracket. GG, 3-1 victory for Scarlett.
Scarlett showing us some really cool builds that seem like, you know, if I was a Zerg player, I'd be excited to see this kind of play because be like, hey, that doesn't seem rocket science. You know, you get a couple roaches, you throw it on Inspire, you do a little bit of damage, and then you follow it up with either a massive roach attack or what we saw in the previous game, which I do think is a little more complicated. You get a roach Hydra Lurker attack, but Scarlett just hitting her timings very well, defending very cleanly, barely losing any probes against that double Archon, 4 Archon drop, and then she just runs to the other side of the map and she's almost maxed out on Roach Ravager and a couple Mutas.
Yeah, pretty sick. And great control on the Mutalisks, not losing them and being able to constantly say, no, you're not just going to be able to kill these and then bring your Archons back to the front. No, you have to focus resources here. And you brought it up earlier, having that base and mining denied so early because he didn't even have a pylon there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's a little bit unacceptable, because if he does have a pylon there, you spot the roaches on the right side of the map, you immediately get a shield battery there, you wipe in even 2 stalkers for all I care, and that's already annoying because we're not talking about 15 or 20 Mutalisks here, right? We're talking 7, 8 Mutas, well, a battery and 2 stalkers, and then you wipe in a few more, or 2 stalkers and an Archon. That's more than enough, and then you can actually focus a lot more on that big frontal attack from all those roaches and Ravagers, and if you then get a cannon up or a couple batteries and you get your Immortals positioned nicely, that every single time the roaches come forward, the Immortals actually fire. And now it just seemed like a very almost sloppy fight, right? And it's too hectic, units all over the place, Zealous running away from the Immortals. You can't be having that as a Protoss.
No. Great play by Scarlett as she advances on in the bracket. She faces the winner of our next series, Masa and True. And man, this top 4 looking good. Silky, Puck, Scarlett, and next up, Masa versus True. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll be coming up after the break. You're watching the World Championship Series.